Konnichiwa, Shogun wa kakkoi desu. Wes, hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, and welcome to yet another not so much of a review video, my dear friends. You know, European law, you know, if you've been following my channel for quite some time, you know that I just like to talk about things I want to talk about. I am not bothering with scripting my videos. Why would I do that? I mean, it's just a hobby. I'm not making millions of dollars. I just like to talk to you as if I was talking to friends over a nice drink in a pub. Alright then, so let us talk Shogun, the new miniseries from 2024, which is currently in its half, if I'm not wrong. And this is a particular, very peculiar case, in my own case, really. Because I always like to have the source material fresh in my mind, in my head, in my memory when I am watching an adaptation or reviewing an adaptation. But I read the book Shogun by James Clavell, or Clavell, whatever you want to pronounce it. I'm not sure then. Well, English is my second language after all. I read it years and years and years ago, but even though I read it years ago, I still do remember quite a lot of it because the book is so well written. I remember just devouring it very, very fast, but at the same time I was able to enjoy it. And at the same time I started rewatching the old show, the 1980s show with Richard Chamberlain as Anjin and Toshiro Mifune as Toranaga. And I have to say that something unexpected has happened, and that is that I actually like, so far, the remake more than the original one. And I shall get to it, my dear friends. So, shall we get into it? Shogun. Who wouldn't know Shogun? A novel written by, as I said, an Australian author, James Clavell, who took historical characters, actual existing historical characters, changed the names, wrote the novel about them to such a artistic brilliancy that I can remember the plot and many of the specific sequences years later, and it must have been 15 years ago since I read it. And so, for example, the character of John Blackthorne, or the Anjin-san, was based on William Adams, or as he was called by the Japanese, Miura Anjin, an actual British pilot who traveled to Japan, was the first British man to reach the shores of Japan and actually became a British samurai. He was accepted by them into their society and got into very, very high ranks. Toranaga no Minowara was actually based on Tokugawa Ieyasu, if I'm not wrong, and Ishido was based on Ishida Mitsunari, and that's all I can remember. I mean, all those characters, most of the characters, are based on real historical personalities, and that you can't see that very often. I mean, authors are inspired or influenced by history in a lot of cases. Old authors and new. Just look at George R. R. Martin. Whatever you want to think about him, he was inspired in his writing of the Song of Ice and Fire by many things, among which we can mention the Wars of the Roses, for example. And so I have to say that I haven't expected the show to be so good, but it's really not that unexpected. Firstly, the show is not really about white people. If it was about white people, it would be butchered. So just look at what they did with Vikings. And also, it is clear and apparent that they have hired competent, talented people, the writers and the showrunners and the directors. And of course, then, the actors. And so I also consider it to be a very good choice that they chose Cosmo Jarvis as Anjin-san. I dare say he's not that much well known, or at least I hadn't known him before I watched the show, the new one. What I have to say is that the show is sticking very close to the source material from what I can remember. Of course, certain things needed to be made quicker, certain details needed to be omitted, but the high points, the highlights, the main sequences and scenes, I can remember from the books very, very clearly to like the smallest detail. I mean, they paid very, very detailed attention to, for example, the sequence when Anjin was given the bird as a gift from Toranaga, and then he, hanged it or hung it from, like a roof of the building that, they gave him. And it started smelling so bad, that the gardener removed it, and they had to kill him. So, and also, but for example, I was hoping that they would pay much more attention, or that they would give more time to the sequence when they were boiling one of the sailors at the very beginning. Not because I wanted to see some sort of gore or violent scenes, but because it was such a peculiar, such an unheard of way of both torture and execution that when I was reading it, and I was very young, I was a teenager when I read it, I was shocked by it. Just, and I was thinking about it for a long time after I read it. I mean, imagine the pain. Imagine the suffering the man must have felt. And so I was also mesmerized when I was reading it for the first time, or really when I read the book. And it was the first time I was very much fascinated by the Japanese culture, their hierarchy, and the way they behave, the manners, and the etiquette that they stick to each and every day of their lives. And that has persisted in their culture until nowadays. Well, of course, feudal Japan is a matter of the past, and samurai, they don't exist anymore. But the discipline and the behavior and the good manners, it's still very much present in Japan. Well, of course, the Japanese are people as much as everybody else, and there are good people and bad people, and people have good moods and bad moods, and they are happy and sad. But remember when Mariko was talking about the 7 or 8 walls that they built around themselves? They were also talking about several hearts that they have. One heart that you show to the world, one heart that you show to your closest ones, and one heart that is only yours and only you know yourself the best. I think that we should all follow the example of the Japanese at that. Try to be, as well behaved as possible in the world, and just, be nice to other people. Well, I'm digressing right now. What I also appreciate is the fact that they did not speak in the show. They don't speak English with Japanese accents, which there was a lot of Japanese used in the book. There was a lot of Japanese in the original show with Richard Chamberlain, but it is very often the case with American shows that if they are making a show or a film about non-English speaking people, they usually speak English with some sort of accent. You got Russians, so they speak English with Russian accent, and quote unquote they speak Russian, right? Or if they are Germans, they speak like this. Oh, Herr Schnitz, how are you? I thought you were gone already. No. They're really speaking Japanese with subtitles, and that's the way to go, really. Now, I have to say that the highlight of the show, that which is the best for me, the most memorable part, and the part I'm looking forward to the most each and every time I'm about to watch an episode is the acting. I mean, the show, all in all, is very well made as far as, you know, the cinematography goes. The directing is very good. There is a very, very good distribution of action and dialogue, and like dramatic scenes and things like that. It's nicely distributed between the struggle between Toranaga and Ishido and the other masters, and the way, of Toranaga towards becoming the Shogun. And then, of course, the romantic aspect, the love story between John Blackthorne and Mariko. So there's a nice distribution. There's a nice balance of action versus romance or dramatic scenes, or just simple dialogues. And also, like the soundtrack I like, the costumes are very well made, the production overall, the production of this series is extraordinary. I love it visually. It looks beautiful. As far as, it's really, I don't know if it's only in my case, but I mean, I have pretty good TV, but I don't know if it's only my case, but it seems to me that it's not really like extra 100,000 HD that they have quite deliberately shot the film not in a lower resolution, but in a very peculiar visual style that I haven't seen before in a modern film or a TV show. Those who understand movie making better than I do might educate me in the comments down below. But what I am looking forward to the most, what I look forward to the most each and every time before I watch it, is the acting. Man, I love Hiroyuki Sanada, the man who is portraying Toranaga in this. I mean, I love Toshiro Mifune in all Kurosawa films and not Kurosawa films in the old Shogun, but Hiroyuki Sanada here in this show, man, he is so good. And Anjin, the Cosmo Jarvis, I needed to write that down because I didn't remember the name of Cosmo Jarvis. He is actually a very good man, actor. I know he was and appeared in shows before, but but let me tell you who is stealing the show for me. I love Hiroyuki Sanada, I love Cosmo Jarvis in this, but for me, who is absolutely stealing the show is this man. Kashigi. Man, I remember this guy from the book. And this might be the only case when I really see where the show is a little bit different from the source material. I remember this guy in the book being a dick. Like an extreme dick. He is a likable guy in this show, and I'm not sure I like it. His name is Tadanobu Asano. I needed to write it down too. I remember him from some films from the past. I think he was in one of the Marvel Thor films, was he? But listen, this guy, he's got a likable face. I mean, he talks, he smiles, he just says something, and you're instantly like you are in a better mood. I don't know what it is about this guy. But I just find him very likable, and I would have a couple of drinks with him immediately. So, I have had some conversations with people on the internet when they were trying to nitpick, and that always happens today. I mean, that's what I hate about this bloody culture war of 2020 and 2024 further. There are people who are trying to find just the simplest pieces of bullcrap in everything, just so they can say, oh, culture war, Disney's dead, so on and so forth. This is not made by Disney, fortunately. There was a person on Twitter that was referring to Mariko when they were escaping from Osaka, I think it was. I might be wrong, with Toranaga. He was escaping, right? So they were smuggling him outside, out of the city. And they were, of course, ambushed. And Mariko, she grabbed a spear from the ground and she, fought off 2 warriors. And then she was aided by archers and she was led away by Anjin. And that's it, right? And there was somebody saying, "Oh, it's like badass woman, MCU character." Listen, buddy. High-born Japanese women in the past, in the feudal Japan, they were taught to defend themselves. For example, they carried the tanto knife at all times with them. There was even a title that was a female samurai. And they were even allowed to commit seppuku, only in their case it wasn't disemboweling themselves, but cutting their own throat. So they were very capable of defending themselves. And later on in the show, there was even a scene where Mariko was training, to fight. And so, defeating 2 warriors with a long-ass spear, and then, just being saved by Anjin and by some archers, that's not that unrealistic. So please, we have to use common sense, right? So come on. Just grasping for straws here, scraping the bottom of the barrel. This is a very rare case, however. And these are my finishing thoughts. I love this show, and I cannot find one single negative about it so far. We are in the middle of the show, so this is a mid not so much of a review video. I love it so far. I shall do another video when the show is over, and I am praying to all the gods I know and love that I love it. And that it stays as good as it has been so far. Alright then. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, my dear friends, if you're watching the Shogun and if you like it. And that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.